I'm Amy Stewart, and this is Miss Kopp's Midnight Confessions, the third book in the Kopp Sisters series. Like the first two books, this one is based almost entirely on real events. In 1916, Constance Kopp was working as a deputy sheriff in Hackensack, New Jersey. I based this novel on two real cases that Constance worked on. They both had to do with the morality laws of the time, which basically made it a crime to run around with somebody you weren't married to. Now, both men and women were arrested on morality charges, but the men had an easier time getting out of it. This was long before the era of, if you cannot afford a lawyer, one will be appointed for you. We didn't have that back then, and men were generally in a better position to afford a lawyer. If a woman got arrested, she'd probably have to call some guy, maybe her father or her husband, who might not be too thrilled about bailing her out when he found out what she'd been up to. Also, men weren't really seen as the threat in these cases. It was the women who willingly ran around with men they weren't married to who were seen as a threat to community decency and family values. So women were the danger, and they could be locked up for years without any right to appeal in a reformatory aimed at, quite literally, reforming them. Early women in law enforcement like Constance Kopp found themselves in the position of serving as kind of like an informal advocate for these women who had no one else speaking up for them. Constance in this book has two quite different cases on her hands. The first is Edna Eustace. This was a situation that would never happen today. Edna left home to take a job in a factory, and she rented a room in a boarding house to live in, but her mother went to the police and demanded that she be arrested for waywardness and incorrigibility. Now, can you imagine this happening today? Your kid grows up, gets a job, moves out of the house, and for that you call the police? But that could happen back then. The other case was a little harder to defend under the morality laws of the day. Minnie Davis really did run off with a man who she wasn't married to. Both of them were arrested for illegal cohabitation. And Constance's work on that case took her inside the girls' reformatory in Trenton, New Jersey. Luckily for me, the woman who ran that place wrote a memoir about it, so I know everything about what went on inside the reformatory in those days. The title even comes from a real newspaper article about Constance getting her inmates to confess the truth at the mystic hour of midnight. And there's another real-life case in this novel that involves the vaudeville actress May Ward. I don't want to give away too much about what happens here, but you'll see that the youngest sister, Fleurette, has a chance to share the spotlight this time. In real life, Fleurette had ambitions to be on the stage, and she was very interested in fashion and made all her own clothes. So Constance really did have this run-in with May Ward, and I took the opportunity to give her a much bigger role and to get Fleurette involved. But you can read the historical notes in the back of the book, and that'll tell you what's real and what's fiction. But honestly, most of it's true. A lot more information on my website, and I also do Skype chats with book clubs, so feel free to take a look at all of that and get in touch with me. I hope you enjoy the book, and stay tuned. There's a lot more to come.